Now, the first thing you're going to hear about in this video is City Council and citizens of Titusville talking about the Low Impact Development Incentive Program. Most of us would like it to be a low impact regulation program. That's the very least we need to save the Indian River Lagoon.
I want to vote yes and move forward with an LID incentive program right now.
Kay St. Ange, Maryland Avenue. Low-impact development is a stormwater management approach that reduces polluted runoff into the lagoon by promoting infiltration into the soil. Trees are the premier LID BMP because as they grow, they become more effective at reducing stormwater runoff, while all other BMPs' effectiveness declines over time. Developers will need to minimize site disturbance and soil compaction from heavy equipment to maximize infiltration. Clearing of trees and grading needs to be restricted to building sites, driveways, and roads so that undisturbed soils can infiltrate stormwater. LID strategies often save on infrastructure and eliminate or reduce stormwater ponds, a big win for developers. Heed the advice of the EPA, FDEP, Marine Resource Council, and your advisory boards. Adopt LID as a new standard of development in the North Indian River Lagoon Basin. Adopt staff's non-mandatory low-impact development ordinance with the other amendments recommended by TEC and P&Z. After adoption.
Whoa, that's a lot of acronyms. So BMP means Best Management Practices in Construction. The TEC is Titusville's Environmental Council, made up by scientists who are actually studying the effects of development on the Indian River Lagoon and on our tree canopy as well as the heat index. And of course, planning and zoning, P and Z. And just for fun, watch the face of the gentleman behind Kay as she talks. That is Jesse Wright, a California developer who is going to develop Titusville Resort and Destination in the location of the old Searstown Mall. And that is going to be a doozy of a project, folks, with 340 housing units, retail space, medical offices, and fast turnover restaurants and all kinds of stuff. Check it out. You can see the project here.
Fund and develop
Should be done.
performance standards and site-specific criteria, then amend the ordinance making LID mandatory to include implementation of LID in existing developments as well as new developments. Together with implementation of the tree ordinance, the Basin Management Action Plan requirements, adoptions of an amended mandatory LID ordinance in the near future, Titusville can significantly reduce the pollutant load to the lagoon while building exemplary new developments. Thank you very much.
Tony Schiffolo, Norwood House, 715 Tropic Street.
Historic house.
Proudly owned. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can read my short but brief. But first, I'd like to just extemporize and say that, Mr. Robinson, I don't think that LID is a new thing. I think the techniques that they're using now for the stormwater infiltration is new. But if you think back about the way the land in America has been settled, it was like you'd get a piece of property and you'd clear off a little space and you'd build your house. And then maybe you'd clear off a little space over here and you'd build your barn. And then you might let the animals clear a little trail between. But you wouldn't come in with bulldozers taking everything down, impacting the soil, disrupting the microorganisms underneath the soil so that nothing will grow in the dead soil anyway after you plant your twig magnolia or your crepe myrtle. While technically LID is a stormwater management approach to development, it really is a method to save natural resources, prevent polluted stormwater runoff, and build site-specific installations. Now, Kay just said that developers will need to minimize site disturbance and soil compaction from heavy equipment to maximize the infiltration. Clearing of trees and grading needs to be restricted to the building sites. If LID is effectively applied, developers can save on curbing infrastructure and large treatment ponds, allowing the building of more houses on the site. We need you to adopt LID as a standard in Titusville and North Brevard. Adopt staff's LID ordinance. We would prefer with the amendments recommended by TEC and P&Z of making the ordinance mandatory. But we have to start, and we have an example. We could be an example for everybody instead of being, you know, those people up in Titusville are just letting those manatees die and they keep dumping sewage water and blah, blah, blah.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 30-2021 as recommended by staff.
Second.
I have a motion from Member Jordan, a second from Vice Mayor. Roll call vote.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes. LID passes unanimously. And I do at least have to add, despite sometimes I feel like we're getting a whooping up here there for things that I'm like, okay, that was 8 years ago. I was still coaching golf somewhere, but I'm very proud of the fact that this council in the last month, maybe longer, but in the last month-ish, just passed a tree ordinance and passed an LID ordinance. And is it everything some of you want? No. But is it some hay in the barn? Yeah, it is. And I can tell you that I don't believe that I'm hearing or looking around and seeing other councils in our area put as much time in, man, boy, and you guys know, this has been years on the tree ordinance. LID was kind of right behind it, but I don't feel like it was quite as long. So that being said, I'm very proud of our efforts, city manager, staff, Ms. Busaka, you guys, and I'm just proud of the council. I'm proud of where we're going, and we are a city that doesn't want to go backwards. And we got the next group coming up on that. We are a city that wants to grow. We are a city that I don't ever want to see go back to 2008.
Now, this is a comment that I've heard made several times by Mayor Diesel as well as City Councilman Robert Jordan, that we don't want to go back to 2008. But I think most of us realize that the situation in 2008 had to do with the global economic meltdown, the foreclosures all over the world, but especially in Titusville, as well as the imminent retirement of the space shuttle fleet, which caused many, many of the workers in Titusville to be laid off from their jobs. I don't think it had anything to do with a lack of being friendly to developers. Nobody was looking to develop during that era. So I find it at best a little disingenuous to imply that it was because we were not friendly to development. Stay with us. The next part of this video is where some of us, myself included, find out that the Tree Mitigation Fund that the developers pay into if they don't want to replant trees doesn't actually have to be used to replant trees at all. In fact, all of it can be used for any project that, air quote, beautifies Titusville. So the next round of payments, for example, will be used for the Gateway project, in which they try to beautify the concrete signs that lead into the city from various routes. And the plan was to plant some non-native plants there to make them more beautiful and not to plant any trees.
That the developers pay into the mitigation fund because it's supposed to, I assume, mitigate the destruction to the environment. Is that correct?
City Attorney, could you pull that up yesterday? I went through that discussion yesterday, and
Okay.
I can tell you the bottom line is it's for the beautification of the city, and there are some
Okay.
lines in there. City Manager and City Attorney, can you go over that real quick?
Correct. It's Resolution 30/2001, and in the recitals, it references the city desires to beautify public properties by landscaping said properties. And all funds received in accordance with Section 35(4) of the Land Development Regulations shall be used to beautify publicly owned or publicly maintained property. So yes, it's to be used for landscaping. That's correct.
Landscape. Okay.
Not for signage,
Not to mitigate the
not
destruction.
for other
to,
things other than.
Okay.
No, that
Not
does,
for
in my
signage.
mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't mean that it's not also able to mitigate tree loss. I think that's
Right.
really a main
but
factor.
But it's not.
But
In this
it's-
case,
it's-
we're using it for.
Well, in fairness, you used the term raided the fund, when in
Yeah.
fact, he just read the rule book.
No, I get that, and I stand corrected. I assumed, and I think a lot of other people did, that when you're allowing people to clear cut and do the things they're doing, and they're paying into the mitigation fund because they've removed so many trees, that the purpose of the fund was to fix that destruction, to put trees in to replace those trees. So I was wrong about that. And I wonder how many citizens are wrong about that. I think a lot of us thought that was the purpose of it.
Well, it's certainly part of the
why would we?
purpose. I think that's
Yeah,
part of the reading as well.
yeah, well, okay. It really doesn't make too much sense I get that that's the rule. It doesn't make too much sense from a logical standpoint that people would assume, well, this could be just for any planting, like we could plant a bunch of non-natives that would require chemicals and pollute even more. And then concrete, I guess. And I know that you guys all have said, well, it's embarrassing. This is what people first see. Well, we already live here. We want trees. We know where we live. I don't need a new sign. I would love to have some trees on the bicycle path. It is so freaking hot there. So you know what? None of us use it. We all go to Volusia, where the bike path is shaded on both sides. It's way, way more comfortable. I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Tony Chipolo, 715 Tropic Street. I had a paper I was going to read, but now I'm just going to say, you are so correct about needing trees for shade, for the citizens, for the residents. That's what the mitigation fund should be. You take out a tree, you pay for it, you put another tree. I drive in and out of Titusville from all directions quite often. I see the signs, nature, space, a couple of plants there. Why are you going to spend $423,000 of the mitigation fee for planting some of those palm trees, which Member Jordan says are just trash trees anyway? Who cares about palm trees? Do you remember saying that at some of the tree team presentations? Yeah. Anyway, why spend that money to do that when it could be done so much cheaper? Scrap these plans that this company, without even putting out bids to get the Gateway project, you're going to let this one company, I guess they're in Orlando, come over and plant some palm trees and put some shrubs in and charge us $443,000, and the people on the bike path and walking in Sandpoint Park and are going to just have to do without shade, without any trees. It just seems pointless to me. I agree you want to have a nice entryway, you want to have something attractive. I don't think we need to be spending the mitigation fees for that. Thank you.
Susan Canada, 2299 Heritage Drive, and I'm kind of sleepy. I'm stage 4 cancer, and I got a blood clot from my ankle into my abdomen. I've been sitting here for a long time. So I want you to listen to me and stay awake, because I'm going to probably fall asleep. Okay, now, my 3 minutes starts now, hopefully. There's a way to do this for everybody where everybody can get what they want. I can't walk at Sandpoint Park or anywhere because it's too hot, so I'm stuck going in stores, walking around and around and around, bored stiff. You need more trees in these parks.
We want council to receive a recommendation and provide direction to staff. During the October 13th regular TEC meeting, the commission approved recommendation 4-0 that the City Council amend the city's Public Land Trust Resolution 30-2001 to require at least 50% of the public landscape fund revenues to be used specifically for the purchase and installation of the highest quality canopy hardwood trees only, which does not include the purchase and installation of other vegetation. So we'll just need your guidance if you want to do it.
That the word hardwood probably should not have been in that motion. And I think that is an error that the staff may have made from these minutes that we have our draft. So in the event that the council directs us to move forward, we'll confirm. And of course, it would have to come back to you anyway, but I understand it should just be canopy trees.
So, Case in Ange, Maryland Avenue, Titusville. I appreciate that TEC recognized the need to amend Resolution 30, 2001 regarding the utilization of the Landscape Trust Fund going forward. Okay, I understand that besides the $422,000 that is likely to be largely appropriated by your landscape concept funds, and I was told that if some is left over, if you don't use it all, that it will still stay in that fund and therefore it might be utilized for other purposes. And I also understand that $33,000 of mitigation funds has accrued since July on top of that. And as the mayor says, more mitigation funds will be accruing. So we need to think about how to change the resolution to go forward to utilize it to indeed mitigate for trees. The resolution currently says the revenues are received as a result of tree mitigation efforts. Okay, so you receive this money for tree mitigation efforts, but you don't use it for tree mitigation efforts. Mitigation means that you're reducing the damage done by cutting down these trees while just planting some ground cover and a few palm trees out by the freeway just doesn't cut it for me. I walk Chain of Lakes every day with the sweat rolling down me during COVID because I needed to get out of my house. and other people are walking it with me, and we need to provide the benefits of shade trees to the residents as street trees, to shade the streets, to shade the sidewalks, to shade the parks, the bike trails, to mitigate for the trees that are being cut down. So how can we change the resolution going forward? Well, I think council can do a better job than just saying 50% should be used for tree mitigation. I challenge you to do better than that. We need these trees to preserve the lagoon. We need the trees to reduce the heat. We need the trees to sequester the carbon. We need trees. Trees are the answer. And at this LID ordinance conference, they said that trees are the best way to reduce stormwater runoff because trees grow and they get better over time at reducing stormwater runoff pollutants into the lagoon. Trees are the answer to the problems that we have that we need to address. And your residents will be so happy if they can walk under a shade tree, sit under a shade tree, have a park bench there. And so please consider when you do change the resolution to require more than 50%. That's just the minimum that TEC was willing to recommend to you. Thank you, and please move forward.
Laura Lee Thompson, 3550 Irwin Avenue in Mims. So after a lot of discussion at our last TEC meeting, we voted to recommend changing the wording in the Public Landscape Trust Fund so that 50% of the funds should be used to prioritize the highest quality canopy trees in places for the public benefit. Some of the TEC members wanted 100% of the money to be used for planting canopy trees. I'm the one that pushed for the 50% split because I was trying to make everybody happy. But then somebody sent me an article from South Florida where their plan is to replace their iconic palm trees with other trees. This is a huge deal, guys, because palm trees have been the marketing thing for South Florida for over 100 years. But with climate change, global warming, sea level rise, which is going to impact them the worst and first, they're trying to find other ways to slow down the inevitable. So palm trees are the least effective trees for carbon sequestration. An average palm tree only absorbs 5 pounds of CO2 per year. Canopy trees can absorb and retain for the rest of their lives 400 to 600 pounds of carbon dioxide per year. So the resilience and climate change manager for West Palm Beach was quoted in this article, and she says, palm trees don't sequester carbon at the same rate as our native canopy trees, nor do they provide shade or cool down streets and sidewalks to help with urban heat island effect like canopies trees do. She says West Palm Beach gives out 1,000 native trees a year for residents and businesses to plant. They have an active tree planting program, and she explains all about their program. The goal is to help Floridians not only beautify their surroundings, but also better plan them for the future of global warming. Man, I'm tired too. And so in order to do that, you have to be selective. Then this is the big thing, the big quote. We do not use our canopy tree fund to plant palm trees in Palm Beach, Redford said. So after learning about the measures being taken in South Florida, I wish now that I could change my vote about our Public Landscape Trust Fund and side with the wiser members of the TEC who I fought with to get the 50% vote. That money was collected to mitigate for the destruction of mature canopy trees. All of it should be used to replace them with the highest quality canopy trees in places for our community's public benefit. So the vote on the landscape plan was that no more than 50% of the current balance be used on the plan. You can still do that. You can still take 50% of the current balance, which would give you over $200,000 to make the gateways where you want to make them. But then after that, I think that the money should be used on replacing canopy trees. So plant your palm trees with half the money, but it really rightfully should be used for canopy trees.
Thank you.
That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video. If you agree with us, if you think that Titusville's Tree Mitigation Fund, paid for by developers who want to clear-cut lots and not save any of the trees, if you think that that money should go to replace those trees, to give Titusville shade for the citizens, to help filter the polluted stormwater that's currently going into the Indian River Lagoon so that we can try to save our manatees and fish before it's too late. If you think the fund should be spent to replant trees, then please share this video. Join Central Florida Nature Tribe on Facebook and bookmark nature-tribe.org. Thanks.